American Islamic Forum for Democracy, Dr. Zuhdi Jasser, is with us. And also joining us, the executive director of the Jerusalem Fund and Palestinian Center in Washington, Youssef, Munayyer, is with us. Welcome, all of you. Thanks for being here. Youssef, let me ask you this. If I fire 1,600, 2,000 rockets into your neighborhood, I kidnap 3 children in your neighborhood, students, and I kill them. What do you think the proper proportionate response is?
Well, maybe you should stop the ongoing, for decades-long military occupation of Palestinian territory.
Okay. Listen,
before you question.
We can take it back to the 1948 partition plan, and we could look at the 67 war, the 73 war, and the hostilities it brought to Israel. They did give land for peace 9 years ago. Now I'm asking you a question. If thousands of rockets are fired in your neighborhood, and kids in your neighborhood are kidnapped, what are you going to do?
Sean, if
what
the
are you
United
going to
States...
do?
Sir, I'm going to try to answer your question if you stop badgering me. Thank you. If the United States was invaded by a foreign military and besieged and surrounded, and the food that was coming into the United States was counted by the calories so that people would be put on a diet, as the Israelis claim. And bombs were being dropped. Sir, let me finish. Let me finish.
You're justifying...
Let me finish, and then you can...
You are making a rationalization for rockets and kidnapping and murder, and you expect the you want to blame the victims in this case. Zuhdi Jasser.
So the only people blaming the victim here is you, because there are countless Palestinian civilians.
Yusuf, this cycle of lack of... Yusuf, we can't continue to explain these things away. For crying out loud, it's Ramadan, and they continue to send rockets out, and organizations like CARE, who, by the way, the FBI, by matter of policy, will not interact with because of the fact that they won't condemn Hamas as a terrorist organization, and still to this day they will not recognize them because of that. So they, just like hitting a softball.
Right, Youssef, I have a question.
Hamas launches, let me finish, Hamas launches rockets on innocents, starts a war after war, and then they use that to say, well, it's a bigger narrative, it's about the occupation. Meanwhile, they have a gender apartheid inside Gaza. Christians are evacuating because churches are being burned. Their doctrine is fascist and genocidal against Jews. Palestinians aren't represented by Hamas, I don't believe, and yet they allow Hamas to drive the narrative globally and start wars.
I want to ask Youssef a question. Is Hamas a terrorist organization?
Do I get to actually speak now?
You get to answer the question. It's a simple yes or no question. Is Hamas...
You invited me on here, sir. You invited me on here as a guest.
I'm asking you a question. Is Hamas, whose charter calls for the destruction of Israel, is that a terrorist organization? That's a yes or no question.
Thank you for your question, and now I will provide an answer. Finally. It's very telling to me that, and it should be telling to your viewers as well, by the way, that the moment you have a Palestinian voice on your program who begins to explain the legitimate grievances of Palestinians on the ground, not just Hamas.
Answer.
Sir, let me finish. Am I a guest on your program, or am I on a witness stand here?
Is Hamas a terrorist organization?
The United States certainly considers Hamas a terrorist organization.
Do you consider?
I
didn't ask what the United States think. I asked what you think. Okay. Can you hear?
Look, if you think that we are going to have any progress in this situation by simply yelling at me, that's not really going to be helpful.
Nicely. Is Hamas
let me ask you, sir, a question at this point.
Is Hamas a terrorist organization? Yes or no?
Let me ask you a question, sir, at
No, you don't answer a question with a question. Is Hamas... What part of this can't you get through your thick head?
This is the reality. The reality is this is a war. These people are waging war on us for time. This has gone on for 1,400 years. This is nothing new. And the whole time while this goes on, police leaders or political leaders want to invite more. They want to invite more.
Thank you very much.
The blood is on the hands of people like you and the left, who have allowed these people to come into our country and cause chaos. There are going to be knocks on the door of families tonight, saying that their daughters, their mothers, and their family have probably been maimed and killed in the streets of our own capital. And the left have allowed it to go unnoticed. And we have people like this laughing hysterically. Is this really a time to laugh? There's a fucking terrorist attack. There's a fucking... Because it's so shocking that you would laugh at something like this. This is a terrorist attack. This is... And this country is being fucked by people like this who think it's hilarious that anybody who criticizes Islam is some fucking scummy, lower class fucking racist. These people who speak out against it are the ones who are trying to prevent it. And every single one of you who thinks this is funny, the blood is on your fucking hand.
Activists at Ohio State protest killing of student who launched campus terror attack. I'll just give that a moment to sink in. That's right, these dumb cunts are demonstrating against the killing of a man who ran people down in his car and then tried to murder others with a butcher knife. But really, all they're demonstrating is what fucking morons they are.
What does punching a white nationalist and having everyone celebrate it accomplish other than providing white nationalists with validation for their assertion that violence against white people is becoming increasingly acceptable? Well, it doesn't really accomplish anything. It's not going to make anybody change their minds about the state of race relations in this country. If anything, it's just going to make things worse because it sets a precedent that if you don't like somebody's right-wing opinions, then it's acceptable to assault them. And if you have right-wing opinions, you can expect to be assaulted, and you should carry a weapon and keep your finger near the trigger because some wacko in a balaclava might try to punish you for wrong thing. The fact that so many people are celebrating the caught-on-camera assault of Richard Spencer just goes to show how obsessed the political left has become with their own feelings. It feels good to punch a white nationalist, and who cares if it only makes things worse? Violence is okay as long as we're the ones doing it. So what if it makes us look like a bunch of hypocrites while we claim to be fighting for justice and it only hurts our cause in the long run? These people are idiots with no self-awareness at all, but I'm making this video in response to a video by Akila Obviously, who perfectly exemplifies the mentality of these people.
This week's top story. If you see a Nazi, punch a Nazi.
Okay, if I ever see you, I'll be sure to punch you. Hey, I'm just doing what you told me. After all, if we go by the social justice definition of Nazi, then anybody I disagree with is a Nazi, so it's okay for me to punch you. I mean, that's what you seem to think a Nazi is. You think anybody who disagrees with you is a Nazi.
This is a Fox News alert. You're looking live at the U.S. Attorney's Office in Lower Manhattan, New York City. The U.S. Attorney is about to announce a federal terrorism charges against the suspect in yesterday's deadly attack, and we will bring that to you as it happens. But in the meantime, a look now at the liberal media's coverage of the new radical Islamist attack on our homeland. This CNN reporter stunningly chose to keep the Muslim suspect's ethnicity and physical features secret from viewers yesterday.
Police know who he is. They have a description of him. I'm not going to share that at the moment.
Jake Tapper, also from CNN, felt the need to remind viewers how beautiful the phrase Allah Akbar can be.
The Arabic chant, Allah Akbar, God is great, sometimes said under the most beautiful of circumstances, and too often we hear of it being said at moments like this.
And over at MSNBC, this analyst wants you to know that sometimes Christians are responsible for terror too.
What you're seeing is not Islam whatsoever. None of this is condoned, including the, sacrificing and getting yourself killed at the end of a terrorist attack. None of that is Islamic. It's anti-Islamic. Even Christians, we've seen Catholics in Canada who converted to quote-unquote Islam and then carried out acts of terror.
I know these reporters are doing this spontaneously at the moment, but this is not a bunch of Catholics gone crazy. These aren't Mormons out doing all this stuff, and it's not just Buddhists gone wild. There is a trend here, and there are a lot of good quality people. I have Muslim friends. The overwhelming majority of Muslims don't do this, but there is this radical element that does do that.
Marxist feminists and SJWs love to put traps for people on the right and take advantage of them. Also, they like to engage in race baiting and dangerous behaviors and then laugh at the right and say, ha ha ha, they're stupid. One of those behaviors is mixing Islamists and Muslims. Why they do it is very insidious and subconscious. Those Marxist or left-wing feminists actually want terrorist boyfriends. So the whole policy in Europe was to try to get as many terrorist boyfriends as possible. Because at the end of the video, you will see them. Their level of aggression is so high. The only thing a woman like that can be attracted to is Daesh or ISIS. There is no way they can be attracted to anything else other than ISIS or Houthis. They're crazy. Women naturally want a man they will be attracted to who can be protective of them and therefore have a higher level of aggression.
Anjem Chowdhury took to Twitter after the slaughter, tweeting, quote, "Freedom of expression does not extend to insulting the prophets of Allah, whatever your views on the events in Paris today are." Hashtag Paris shooting. He also tweeted, "Muslims love the messenger, Muhammad, more than their parents, children, even themselves. Why don't people understand?" Here now to explain his comments is London Imam Anjem Chowdhury is with us. You sound like you basically support what happened today.
No, what I'm saying is that these things need to be put into context. We're talking about a French government who have banned the burqa. They refuse Muslims to build mosques now in Paris. They are engaged in occupation of Muslim land and even killing Muslims now in Syria and Iraq. And on top of that, they allow people to insult the Prophet.
You're justifying this. They went in and slaughtered a newspaper, a satirical newspaper that makes fun of the Pope and makes fun of Catholics and all religions and politicians and everybody. But you do have in France many no-go zones where non-Muslims are not allowed to go and police and fire departments are not allowed to go. And you do have Sharia courts in those areas. So your characterization is not exactly accurate about the treatment of Muslims in France.
No, I think that the political landscape in Europe has in fact shifted. As you know, many right-wing organizations are now allowed to espouse their own anti-Islamic ideas very openly. And in fact, we could have a government in places like France which are very anti-Islam and anti-Muslims.
Yeah, so what you're basically saying, so what you're basically saying is freedom of expression does not extend to insulting the prophets of Allah, whatever your views on what happened in Paris. So you're saying you do not believe in freedom of speech, you don't believe in freedom of religion, you don't believe in freedom of expression, you believe in Islamic fascism, that people must abide by your laws.
Actually, as a Muslim, we believe that sovereignty and supremacy belongs to God. And therefore, we believe in submitting to the commands of God.
But you're demanding you're demanding everybody else submit to what you believe.
No,
and it should be illegal to.
What we say is that
you said. You said freedom of expression.
What we say is that.
Go ahead.
Sure.
Go ahead.
Well, what we say is that freedom of expression has a responsibility by those people who espouse it in the West, in particular non-Muslims. But as you know, it is, changed, it is curtailed for things like incitement and hatred. And as you know, you have laws which allow, the curtailment of freedom of expression for your own national security.
So you're saying that I got what you're saying. So you're saying anything offensive about the Prophet Muhammad should be illegal, and you believe that should be worldwide. Every country should adopt that law.
Well, you need to understand that in Islam, this carries capital punishment. And we saw before with Theo Van Gogh and Salman Rushdie.
But you're not answering. You're saying that every country
should be aware about this already.
But every country should adopt that, and it's convert or die. It's either you agree with us, or we will go into your newspaper and we will slaughter you. We will put a fatwa out on you.
No, what we're saying is that a quarter of the world's population revere the messenger Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and for them, they'll prefer to die themselves than to allow anyone to insult the Prophet.
19-year-old Zolkar Zarnaev pleaded not guilty yesterday to 30 federal charges, including murder. Zarnaev and his brother killed 3, wounded 260 others by setting off bombs at the Boston Marathon finish line. Zolkar also killed a police officer while attempting to flee. You remember an 8-year-old boy was killed by the act of terror, and there were many amputees. Nevertheless, a slimy terrorist says he didn't do it, and there are disturbed people supporting him.
Today, I would love to see him plead not guilty and force the prosecution to prove their case, because there's so much information out there that proves that they did not do this.
He has a right to live his life. Let him live his life. He's only 19 years old.
We're here to show Jahar some support, let him know he does have people out there that believe in him and that he didn't do this, and to talk to people if they're willing to listen, tell them why we think he's innocent, and our facts and evidence and the lack of facts and evidence, to see if maybe we can wake a couple people up and make them realize that this is not true.
Hard to believe.
This is the reality. The reality is this is a war. These people are waging war on us for time. This has gone on for 1400 years. This is nothing new. And the whole time while this goes on, police leaders or political leaders want to invite more. They want to invite more.
Thank you very much. The blood is on the hands of people like you and the left, who have allowed these people to come into our country and cause chaos. There are going to be knocks on the door of families tonight, saying that their daughters, their mothers, and their family have probably been maimed and killed in the streets of our own capital. and the left have allowed it to go unnoticed. And we have people like this laughing hysterically. Is this really time to laugh? There's a fucking terrorist attack. There's a fucking... because it's so shocking that you would laugh at something like this. It's a terrorist attack. This is... and this country is being fucked by people like this who think it's hilarious that anybody who criticizes Islam is some fucking scummy, lower class fucking racist. These people who speak out against this are the ones who are trying to prevent it. And every single one of you who thinks this is funny, the blood is on your fucking hands.